Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Architect Certification 1Z0-1072 is for anyone who is designing or implementing solutions on Oracle Cloud, or anyone who wish to start their journey onto Oracle Cloud. What are the different certification paths in Oracle Cloud? What this certification OCI Architect Associate 1072 includes, or what are the topics you should learn, who this certification is for, and what are the 5 topics that you must be learning in order to clear this certification, and a 8-week roadmap right from complete beginner to the various topics that you should be learning, including the hands-on lab you must be performing in order to clear the certification. I'm going to cover all this in today's episode. Welcome to another episode of weekly video series with me, Atul Kumar from team K21 Academy, where we take you to a journey from complete beginner, that's foundation, to level associate and expert level professional 100997. So let's first begin with certification roadmap. If you're a complete beginner with no knowledge in cloud, you should always start with foundation. So the certification program 1Z0-1085 will take you to the foundation. If you have a little fair understanding about the basic concepts in cloud, then you can go for associate, and in that you have 1Z0-1072, that's for architects. If you're a developer, then you can go for 1Z0-1084. If you're administrator operations or anyone who wants to or already working on Oracle Cloud or would like to work on cloud, I still recommend you to first go for architect before you go to operations. The reason being is architect is where you will teach all the design and implementation, and then you can understand how to manage those cloud artifacts. Once you have the architect associate, then you can move into professional, which is 100997. Now, very quickly, in order for you to do associate, foundation is not mandatory, but it helps, but it's not mandatory. But for professional, you should be an architect associate 1Z0-1072 certified. Now, if you want for 1085, which is a foundation, you get 5 topics that you should be learning. And I've done this free video in past about this 1Z0-1085 foundation. If you have not looked at it, then check this URL at the bottom, k20academy.com/1Z0-108502. There we have a free masterclass on how you can learn this foundation in 10 days. This free masterclass will be useful if you're a complete beginner in Oracle Cloud. Now let's look at 1Z0-1072. So you get total 66 questions. You have 105 minutes to clear this, and it's a multiple choice question. And in order to pass this exam, you need to score 65% to clear the exam. Now, the main topics which I'm going to discuss in a minute, but these are identity and access management. Then you have a networking, which is basic and advanced networking. And within networking, you also have a load balancer. Once you understand the networking, then you should also be knowing compute, which is nothing but Windows and Linux machines. Then underlying storage, then how do you launch these virtual machines? And then the 5th topic is about databases. Once you understand these databases, then high availability disaster recovery and best practices. So to do a quick recap, you have identity and access management, that topic 1, then networking is topic 2, then compute, which is nothing but virtual machines, topic 3, then storage, which is different type of storage, and the data transfer service, that's topic 5, and then 5th topic is about database system. And once you do understand high availability best practices in disaster recovery for all these components, once you have learned all these 5 topics, then you need to write one exam, which is 1Z0-1072, and then you get certification Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Architect Certified Associate. So let me explain these 5 topics in detail. So the first topic you should be learning is identity and access management. That includes both basic and advanced identity and access management. Now, identity and access management consists of users and groups or instance principle that makes your identity, which is on left hand side. Now, as a part of identity and access management, you're protecting these resources, which you put together into a compartment, which is nothing but a logical collection of these resources. And then you apply appropriate policies that dictates who can do what on these resources. So let's assume you have a group of network administrator. You put all your network resources into a compartment, which is network compartment, and give administrative privileges to the network group on the network compartment. Similarly, all the databases you club together into a DBA compartment and give all your database administrators access to this compartment or manage access on this DBA compartment, which means users who are part of the network compartment, they will not be able to delete or create databases. Similarly, the members of DBA group will not be able to create or manage network resources, but they will be able to use it. So that's your users, groups, compartments, policies that make up your identity and access management. Now, as I said just now, the compartment is logical collection of these resources on which you apply policies, and that gives access to the users. And there can be nested compartments as well. So learn about compartment. Then another topic you should be knowing is about tags, which is you can any resource that you create in OCI, you can tag it. Then these tags can then later be used for cost tracking and for some other purposes as well. Now, all these topics are part of basic identity and access management. Then a more advanced could be multi-factor authentication, where you can use, apart from username password, you need one more method to authenticate to OCI. Apart from that, federation, you should be knowing federation, which is where you're delegating the authentication of OCI console to another identity provider like Identity Cloud Service or Microsoft Active Directory Federation Service, which is ADFS, or third-party single sign-on server like Okta. And once you understand this multi-factor authentication and federation, then you should definitely be doing these labs. So how do you create users, groups, policies, create compartments, assign resources into compartment, apply these policies to the compartment, or do these federations? Now, if you want a full list of what all hands-on you should perform in order to not only clear the certification, but understand OCI very well, you can go to this URL k21academy.com/1Z0-1072-05, where 1Z0-1072 represents the exam number and 05 is the number to get to the full list of all the hands-on we recommend in order to not only clear the exam, but also learn OCI as an expert. Now, once you understand this identity and access management, second is the most important one in my view, networking, that includes basic and advanced networking. Now, this is a network diagram, and if you're coming from no networking background, initially it might sound a little bit cryptic, but it's totally doable and easy to understand. So let's try to understand what all things you need to learn and understand in networking for OCI Architect certification. So let's assume this is a network. So you need to understand what is a network or virtual cloud network or VCN. These networks are typically broken down to smaller network, which is called as subnets, in which you create your resources like virtual machines or databases. So the subnets can be private or public, and the secure applications like databases, I'm going to put them into a private subnet. Then I might keep my load balancers or end user facing resources like load balancers in a public subnet. Now these machines in different subnets needs to talk to each other, and this is where we call firewall or security list in OCI terminology, or you can also create network security group. Now your end users might be accessing these load balancers from internet, and for that you need internet gateway or IGW. Or you may also want to access your OCI directly from on-premise, and this is where DRG, that's dynamic routing gateway, comes into picture. And you can connect from on-premise to OCI via DRG either using IPsec VPN tunnel, or you can use Fast Connect. So you must learn about IPsec VPN tunnel or Fast Connect in networking for OCI. And the final piece in this puzzle is the object storage, which is used to store the data for backup purpose. So any databases or Linux Windows machines backup, you store them into object storage. So you take this backup via a component called service gateway, which is to communicate your OCI services to another service, which is object storage. So in a nutshell, you need to understand from a networking point of view, the virtual cloud network or VCNs, then you need to understand the subnets, then you need to understand the firewall, which is nothing but your security list or network security group. Then you need to understand few different type of gateways like internet gateway or dynamic routing gateway. You also need to understand the connectivity like IPsec VPN tunnel or fast connect, or the route to go to the object storage, that service gateway. And then there are some advanced networking topics. Apart from that, you should also be learning about load balancer, which takes the traffic from client and distribute it to the multiple backend servers for high availability. If we talk about advanced networking, you should be knowing about transit routing, which is where you have multiple networks on Oracle Cloud and you want to connect these multiple networks on cloud with on-premise, and this is where you can use hub and spoke model, which is called as transit routing. And there's a concept about local peering, which is connecting these different networks within a single region in OCI. Or if you want to connect your multiple networks across regions, this is where you will use remote peering. So you understand about local or remote peering. Now, if you want to talk about the labs, then you should be doing all these like things like creating VCN, subnet, security list, service gateway, network dynamic routing gateway, route tables, and all these configurations you should be doing. And similarly for advanced topics. And you want to get a full list of all the hands-on you must perform in order to clear the certification, or we cover in our training program in order to learn like an expert, then have a look at k21academy.com/1Z0-107205. Then in topic 3, that's compute, you will be creating the virtual machines, that is Windows or Linux machines. You can configure them as a bare metal, which is directly installing on a hardware without a virtualization layer. Or you can create virtual machines where you have a virtualization layer on top of a bare metal. Or you can have a third type, which is called as dedicated VM, which is a complete bare metal for you and multiple virtual machines running on that bare metal, all dedicated to you to avoid the noisy neighbors problem. Now, in terms of compute, you should also be understanding what are the different type of shapes you can select and in what scenario you'll be using these shapes or which one you'll be configuring. Now, another important topic to understand is about architecture of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Now, which consists of a region, which is nothing but a geographical location, and in each region you can have up to 3 availability domain. And availability domain represents a data center. So you can have 1 or 3 availability domain in a region. Now, these regions are then further divided into fault domain, and fault domain provide high availability but within a data center. So you have at the bottom a region. Region is divided into data centers, which is called as availability domain. Then availability domain is further divided into the fault domain. So fault domain are provide high availability within a data center. This will be useful when you're designing your databases or deploying your virtual machines or load balancers. Then you'll be configuring them within availability domain, but across fault domain for high availability within a data center. Or if you want high availability across data centers, then if a region supports multiple availability domains, then you're going to deploy them across multiple availability domains. Or you can configure them across region so to avoid any region failures. So the common operations you should be doing in compute is how to create an instance or what type of images using which you can create your instances or what represents a boot volume or what all operations you can do on these boot volumes. Also, you should be familiar with console connection that's typically used in a scenario where you can't start your machine and you need a backend mechanism to troubleshoot your instance. So you connect via console and then you can look at what's happening in that machine, why it's not coming up. And then all this you should be covering by doing those hands-on that you learn. So things like how do you create machines, how do you generate SSH keys for Linux machines, what are the complete life cycle of these computes, what are different type of images you get, how do you attach or detach boot volumes, what is operating system management, a new service introduced in early 2020, what is operating system or OS management, how do you attach a public IP or reserved IP to an instance, and so on. Then the fourth topic is about storage, and you get different type of storage, mainly 3 types: block, object, and file storage service. The file storage service is mainly used when you need a shared file system like NFS compliant shared file system. Block storage is where you store all the data, like for when you attach it to the machine or you create your databases, that's block storage. Or object storage to store your backups or any files, JPGs, or images for object storage. Now, these storage, then you also have additionally a local NVMe, which is locally attached non-volatile memory express solid state disks. So the object storage that you see on right hand side, there are 2 different types of object storage. You have a standard tier, which is second last from right, and the last one, which is archive storage. So this standard object storage, you can get the data easily and very quickly compared to the archive. And the archive can take up to 4 hours to retrieve. Now this archive tier you will use for backing up the data that you don't want to restore within 4 hours. So expect some questions around standard and archive tier in the certification. Then you should be knowing how to create and manage object storage, what all operations you can do in object storage. Similarly, how do you create and manage block volumes? And manage, I mean, is how do you attach it, detach it? How do you backup and restore? Similarly, managing and creating your file storage service. So all three type of different service, meaning all the three different type of storage, how do you create them and manage them? You should also be familiar with the backup policy. How do you backup these? And backup as the volume groups, which means multiple different type of storage, you back them as a group. So coordinated backup. Also, how do you clone these different type of storage? Another important thing you should be familiar with is data transfer service, which is a data transfer appliance or data transfer disk, or you have a storage gateway to copy the data, or you decide to directly transfer this data from your on-premise to cloud over Fast Connect or VPN Connect. And all this covered by the hands-on lab where you do all these operations. And then the fifth topic you should be learning is about databases. So you should have a understanding of different database options that are available on Oracle Cloud. So things like virtual machine DB system or bare metal DB system. And then in which option you get RAC, which is a real application cluster. Then you also have accelerator DB system, which is an Oracle's engineered system accelerators, but in Oracle Cloud implementation. You also have autonomous, which is shared and dedicated. So an overview about these different database types. Then how do you provision these databases? Again, on a high level, you need to understand both user managed as well as autonomous databases. Then you should also be familiar with how do you connect to these databases, either connecting to the machines if these are user managed databases, or in case of autonomous database or other databases using SQLnet or your JDBC. And then expect some questions with respect to like what all things you can do with these databases, like scaling up the CPUs or auto scaling of in autonomous databases, and then cover it by the hands-on lab. And then final piece will be high availability and disaster recovery of all these five topics that we saw, including the best practices. So things like you can configure your services across regions for disaster recovery. So you can have primary as one region and then standby as another region. And then use data guard for database sync and use rsync for application tier file sync. You might also want global traffic manager to distribute your load balancer traffic across different regions, or you also definitely want load balancers to distribute the traffic across different web servers. So make sure you understand the best practices as well as high availability and disaster recovery concepts. Now, at the end, I'm going to give you also access to a roughly around 90-minute free training. So you can, whatever I've taught you here, will go a little bit deep into these and how you can learn all this quickly. But before that, let's quickly have a look at the exam basics. So as I said at the start, you have 66 questions that you need to answer within 105 minutes. There's no negative marking and there's only multiple choice questions. In order to clear this exam, you have to write 65%. Now, before going to the exam, I highly recommend you to just have a look at what kind of questions you get. That will give a little bit more clarity on. So make sure you have some sample questions that you can see what kind of questions you can expect and then prepare for these exam as well. Now, these are some of the questions which we have collected and are available to our members on how you can prepare it well. The objective of these questions should be to learn the concept so you can better implement these solutions. If you do what I told you earlier in these five topics, including the hands-on, you will definitely clear the exam. That's not a doubt. But what you should be also focusing is on implementation experience so you can take this knowledge and help customers in implementing OCI or solutions on Oracle Cloud. Now, you can give this exam through Pearson VUE site, and you can either give this exam in Pearson VUE Center or you can do it from home. And maybe in another episode, I will cover about my experiences with Pearson VUE and what all things you need to take care of if you decide to take this exam from home. Now let's look at this 8-week roadmap that we have developed over last 3 years and have been used by hundreds of our students to not only clear the certification, but also use this in their day-to-day jobs and to learn and to help their customers in implementing Oracle Cloud like an expert. So if you're preparing for the certification Architect 1Z0-1072, or preparing for a job or a higher paid job so that you can implement the solutions on Oracle Cloud or you can implement Oracle Cloud, then here's your 8-week roadmap. So in first week, you begin with the basic cloud concepts, including what are the common service models, what are the deployment models, the cloud concepts, then OCI versus OCI Classic, which is the older version of OCI, things like region, availability domain, fault domain, different ways to access your like OCI, things like consoles, SDK, command line interface, REST APIs, and then create a trial account so you can practice. And whatever things I've told you, you can do those operations because you will learn when you actually do the hands-on. Then in week two, you work on identity and access management. That's basic identity and access management, managing users, groups, instance principal, authentication, authorization, compartments, policies, and tags, and actually create these artifacts. Then in week three, you look at networking. So the basic networking like virtual cloud network, CIDRs, subnets, route tables, security lists, gateways, and then also understand the DNS, which is domain name service, which are available in OCI. And then actually do the hands-on for this. Then in week four, you look at compute, which is create these virtual machines and then connect to these virtual machines, configure multiple virtual machines across availability domain, and then configure load balancer in front of that and see if you can connect via the load balancer. Then in week five, you should do storage, create the storage. So create a block volume and attach those block volumes to the machine that you've created in the previous week, or create some file storage service and attach to the machines that you've created in the previous week, or do the backup and restore, or create some buckets for object storage for the backup purpose. And then week six, you look at databases. It's a big topic, but it's totally doable. So create your autonomous databases, load some data into autonomous database. Then in seventh week, you look at advanced identity and access management and advanced networking. So things like federation, transit routing, hub and spoke model, VCN peering, local and remote, and then set up VPN and fast connect. And once you have done all this, so the last week you keep aside for HADR best practices and exam preparation. Now, once you have done all this, not only you will clear the exam, but any high paid job in Oracle Cloud implementation, you will definitely get it, no doubt about it, provided you do the work. So this 8-week framework, I package this it all into a step-by-step comprehensive training program that includes all these topics into 12 modules, 100 plus videos, step-by-step hands-on activity guide that you've seen earlier, including exam preparation, and the most important part is the on-job support. And the same program has been used by hundreds of students like you, including the corporate customers, not only to clear the exam, but also to get a higher paid job and to learn this Oracle Cloud like an expert. So if you're interested in learning more about this program, also would like to learn a little bit more on topics that I've covered today, then head on to URL k21academy.com/1Z0-107202, where I and Amit will take you with a step-by-step journey going deep into these topics and explaining how to prepare for this exam and not only clear the exam, but also learn this and help your customers in implementing this Oracle Cloud infrastructure. Or would like to learn Oracle Cloud and help your customers, then don't forget to register for this free 90-minute class where we talk everything about this Oracle Cloud Infra Architect certification right from beginners, like which cloud to learn and why you must learn cloud now if you have not started your cloud journey yet, or what exactly is OCI, what are the different solutions on OCI and who all are using OCI. We'll also talk about who should learn OCI and why. So if you are not yet sure whether OCI is right for you, this free class will clear all your doubts. We'll go a little bit deep on these 5 topics that you must learn in order to clear the certification as well as for the job. And also be taking up question answers and any career related guidance that you might need help with. So if you like today's video and you want to go a little bit deep and would like to know more about this OCI certification, then head on to k21academy.com/1Z0-107202. If you have any question for me before that, don't forget to leave a comment. And also, if you like today's video, then don't forget to subscribe and share it with your colleagues. I'll see you next week with another episode on cloud. Till then, take care.